So how did we get here today? Most of us grew up in an era where vaccination was voluntary, available but totally voluntary. Our parents could choose whether to vaccinate us or not without fear of favour or fear. For smallpox, tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis and polio. The measles vaccine came along in 1969, rubella in the 70s and the combined measles, mumps and rubella vaccine in the 80s. This was all voluntary. And if you want to credit vaccines for controlling these diseases, you must then acknowledge that this was achieved by totally voluntary vaccination. In the 1980s, it is estimated that only 53% of children were adequately vaccinated. In 1994, the Howard government ran a pilot childhood vaccination register to track immunisation coverage, issue reminders and consolidate immunisation histories. This was about 21 doses to 8 diseases by the time a child was 6 years old. In 1996, it was fully adopted. Not only was this vaccination program taxpayer funded, but an additional carrot was added by way of the maternity immunisation allowance, approximately $250 reward paid in 2 instalments for meeting the government's immunisation requirements. The system changed from being a voluntary or opt-in system to being opt-out, and parents could opt out of the vaccination schedule by using the conscientious objection form. So if there was a medical, philosophical, religious or personal belief that your child should not adhere to the current version of the childhood vaccination schedule, this was your form. With this form, parents could object to the vaccinations schedule, not necessarily all vaccines, but to the schedule, its timing and one or more of the vaccines. With this form, parents could still claim the maternity immunisation allowance. In July 2012, the government stopped the maternity immunisation allowance and tied vaccination status to Family Tax Benefit A end-of-year supplement. This was just under $2,200 and paid in 3 instalments at in the financial years that the child turned 1, 2 and 5. Children need to be fully immunised on a recognised immunisation catch-up schedule or have an approved exemption, the exemption either being the conscientious objection or medical exemption. With the increase in financial incentives, almost 9 times more, it became worthwhile to have a conscientious objection form when not complying with the vaccination schedule. By 2012, the childhood vaccination schedule had increased from its 21 doses to 8 diseases by age 6, to 38 doses to 13 diseases by age 4 for the main schedule, and 41 doses to 14 diseases for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. This starts at birth. Diseases targeted now include those which are an inconvenience, such as chickenpox and rotavirus, and a disease normally associated with the sexually promiscuous and IV users, hepatitis B. As the schedule increases, so do the bribes to comply with it. In April 2015, the government announced that it will remove the conscientious objection to the vaccination schedule, which was our protection against the unknown schedule of the future, and tie vaccination obedience to up to $15,000 worth of childcare payments, CCB and CCR. As well as the Family Tax Benefit Supplement. The only exemption left is the medical contraindication, where your child must demonstrate a severe reaction to vaccines such as anaphylaxis or encephalopathy. The choice is still there to vaccinate or not, but this choice is leveraged by government support such that only those who don't need the Family Tax Benefit Supplement or childcare payments can afford to stand by their beliefs. Interestingly, in Mr Abbott's electorate, North Manly, one of the most affluent areas in the country, also has the lowest childhood vaccination rates at about 83 to 85%. This policy is social discrimination because only the families who do not need FTB, CCB and CCR can afford to stand by their convictions. It is racial discrimination. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders require an extra dose of the pneumococcal vaccine and 2 doses of Hep A vax to meet vaccination requirements. To sweeten is ill for doctors, the Abbott government will pay doctors a $6 incentive to chase up the parents of children who have fallen behind in their vaccinations. This is all the while we had the highest vaccination rates in our history, with a national average of 91%. So where does this leave our children's future? We have never achieved the magical 95% fully compliant to the vaccination schedule, and probably never will, because the definition of fully immunised will change as more vaccines are added to the schedule. The government is looking at vaccine uptake as a measure of public health, not the lack of disease. If disease notification rates are graphed against childhood vaccination rates, there is no correlation. If the vaccination schedule worked, we should see a decrease in all the diseases as compliance with the schedule increases. Comments by Australia's Commonwealth Director of Health, J.H.L. Cumston, and Australia's Nobel Laureate for Immunology, Macfarlane Burnett, clearly stated that public health reforms such as sanitation, hygiene, nutrition, and smaller family sizes from 1850 to 1950 were the most important factors in reducing the deaths and illness due to infectious diseases. Therefore, the government is incorrect to suggest that high petition rates in all vaccination programs are necessary to prevent deaths and illness from returning as a public health problem. A threat or perceived threat does not justify the erosion of civil liberties. Disease occurrence is reported to the National Notifiable Diseases Surveillance System. Plot this data against the percentage of fully vaccinated children, and we should, if what we are being told is correct, see disease occurrence decrease as vaccination schedule compliance increases. We don't. I could be accused of misrepresenting the facts, but when plotting disease occurrence rates, these are usually for the whole of the population, while the vaccination schedule everyone is banging on about is for children. But isn't that what we're doing? We are vaccinating our children with 41 doses to 14 diseases by age 4 and relying on this group, 7% children 5 or under 5, 20% children 15 or under, to provide immunity for the whole Aussie herd. Some diseases trend down, yes, HIV for example. Some are static like diphtheria, polio and congenital rubella. Some trend up, pertussis, varicella. Some are cyclical, pertussis and possibly mumps. Measles has been trending down for a while, but is on a little upward swing at the moment. In short, the disease rates are behaving independently of the childhood vaccination rates. So if correlation doesn't equal causation, what does no correlation mean? Why are our children being forced to comply with a vaccination schedule which is not working? And before I'm attacked for maligning a vaccine, I said vaccination schedule. The benefit or perceived benefit of one vaccine does not infer the benefit of the whole schedule. The schedule is not working. So why are parents being financially penalised through family tax benefits and childcare rebates? Yes, working families who pay taxes. Why are they being penalised for not being obedient to a schedule which is not working as they promised us? These statistics I've quoted today are no secret. They are freely available for anyone to read. They are taken from the Childhood Immunisation Handbook, humanservices.gov.au website, the National Immunisation Strategy. I encourage you all to look into this and see for yourself. I've made a copy of the graph available on the table for anyone that's interested. Okay, that's probably enough from me. I'd like